record button. One of the things that I noticed was a lot of the poems that I was getting in the very beginning, and some of the poems I had been gravitating to, were about fathers. And I knew immediately, like, okay, it's an origin story issue. It's something that a lot of the heroes deal with. And so the very beginning of the book starts with fathers. And so to start, I'm gonna have actually, I'm gonna have a couple people read those, and then we're gonna get into the fathers. So to start, we're gonna have Pam is gonna start us off with her Mystique poem, but I want to talk about that for a minute. Pam, I was trying to figure out how to end this book, and I had most of the books together, and then your Mystique poem came in, and it was, you know, dealing with Mystique in the way that Mystique exists, right? She doesn't know whether she's good, whether she's bad. She can be mutable. And your poem, using the duplex, also does a really good job of capturing that. And I was like, this is it. This is how I'm going to end the piece. So you're going to start us off, because I think it actually, Mystique can fit in anywhere that she wants to fit in. But first, let me do an introduction of you. Sorry, I'm just pulling things up on my computer. Is it Pam? How do you say your middle?
Sure.
What's that?
Pam Eve Simon.
Okay, Pam Eve Simon believes in love and art. She earned her Bachelor of Arts in English and American Literature from New York University. Her poetry has appeared in Perhappen Mag and Famadan Journal. Her photography has appeared in Feral and Kissing Dynamite, and for what it's worth, her photography kicks butt. I love her photography. Pam's love for the film Black Panther is more powerful than vibranium. Say hi to her on Twitter, Pam Eve, or visit her link tree, which I will post in both of those in the chat in a second. Pam, could you read us your poem?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you again, Jared and Sean and all the poets here. I'm so excited. And I'll kick it off with Mystique. So this is Mystique, the fugitive I harbor. If only I could be the fugitive I harbor inside of me, to survive inside your world, in your eyes, I become your hero. I always change for you. I become a villain to myself. Mutations are miracles, as uncommon as monsters. Miracles are reminders that I don't need a tidy origin story. I still exist. An origin is one truth, and everyone loves a juicy lie or two. Everyone loves a second act, a chance at redemption. We all want heroes who can redeem themselves, free themselves. Freedom is the fugitive I harbor.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So our next reader, Matthew, your poem is about Daredevil, but it's actually really about Matt Murdock. I love the way in which you capture both those worlds and just the complexity of Matt's struggle. Let me pull up your bio real quick. I started looking alphabetically for Murdoch. I'm like, wait, there's no Matt Murdock in here. So Matthew Andrews is a private investigator and writer from Modesto, California. He's the author of I Close My Eyes and Almost Remember, and his poetry has appeared in Orange Blossom Review, Pithead Chapel, and Eco Theo Review, among others. He tweets at 2 Glass Andrews. Although he loves many Marvel characters, he will always love the X-Men the most, and he will be forever disappointed we never got a Gambit movie. Thank you, Matthew.
Not yet, anyway. Thank you so much for having me, and it's going to be a pleasure listening to everybody read tonight. So thank you very much. Matt Murdock sits down in the pews. Even in the persistent darkness, the cross is visible, an impression shaped by echoes of prayers whispered in the chapel. He hears every one of them, their losses, their pains, their cries for deliverance. The hanging Savior, he too knows this burden. The priest raises the chalice skyward. The wine tosses in tempest while the ground quakes with falling knees. The murdered Christ, he too knows what it is to be broken, to have bones that splinter like wood for the offering. Outside, the sun's warmth slips behind a cloud, the whole earth now a shadow stretching to meet the birth of the night. He rises, walks to the front, prepared, as always, to accept the curse of his calling. He will always taste blood on his tongue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. So the next poem is, give me 1 second. My phone is exploding. I think the doorman's calling. Give me 1 minute. Sorry about that. I have this really weird system in my building where they force you to ring the you have to buzz people in through my phone, and I get weird deliveries. So, all right. So our next one is actually a video. Todd Kaneko wrote the poem that first got me thinking about this anthology in Sporklet, and I will let him do the honors of reading it for you. So let me share that. Everybody can see? Okay.
Can't hear it, Jared.
Okay, let me try that again. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Todd Kaneko, and this is my poem, Elegy with Great Responsibility. So, you wish you could be a hero, desire to crawl along the edges of skyscrapers, somersault into the world wearing a brave new skin. Your father hasn't taught you to fight, hasn't bequeathed you hood nor mantle, but the kind of grief that changes a boy, turns his guts to stale air and twine. You look at death some nights, stroke its cheek with your palm, and know how different the world could be if you were a spider. You could spin a line from the end of your bed to the moon, climb through the sky and sling your body to where your father's body sleeps with your name sewn to the insides of his eyelids, the way you have his name stitched in cobwebs across your chest, the way the spider repairs its web every morning to cover the ravages of night. You are a man, powerless at the end of your father's life. And with great powerlessness comes grief, cloying and threaded through your bones, a tether to darkness. It's hard to promise to do better next time when time has expired. Harder to live in the world after failing to take care of the dead.
I love that he did professional editing on that. So good. So next we have Amarak. You work with Todd, yeah?
I do. His office is right across the hall from mine. And I think I saw him yesterday, and I think he got a haircut between when I saw him and recording that video, because he looks very different all of a sudden.
Yeah, Todd couldn't be with us because he's got the great responsibility of two very young twins he's holding, I imagine right now, trying to get them to sleep. So it was really great that he was able to create that video. And Amrek, I read your poem and had about a week into doing this anthology, and was immediately like, I want that poem. And I immediately emailed you and tried to contact you, and thankfully I got a hold of you and was able to. You're like, yeah, I'll be in it. It's great. So I thank you so much for being a part of this. Let me introduce you, and then we'll get started with your poem. So Amarak is every father in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The absent ones, the hands-on dads, the encouraging but silent types, and the ones that lead their children further into a life of crime and/or crime fighting. He's also an amazing poet who is still finding the time to do his family's laundry. And you can find his work at amarakhuey.net. Thank you for being a part of this.
Thank you so much, Jared. What a fun anthology, and just terrific group of poets to have my work associated with. I'm really honored. Yeah, so this is the poem that appeared in Hobart After Dark, or had. It's called Watching WandaVision and Feeling Sorry for Myself. I feel most like a dad when I'm folding clothes and binging a show no one else in the family likes. It's like getting away with something. I am so bored with myself. My body's ebbs and swells, its lazy meandering away from its best self. You'd think you could control what's inside your own skin, if nothing else. If I died right now, someone would find me fat and white and face down in a heap of my family's underwear. It would seem undignified, but at least it's clean. Jesus, I'm doing the best I can here. February 2016, Hotel Mirror, California. The last time I loved my human body. I was alone for the weekend and naked and doing all right. Now, I do think my life might be a sitcom. And if the government is watching, they're probably mostly annoyed by the laugh track. And all this time I've spent establishing the premise. Like, let's go, we get it, get on with the plot already. Like this, over and over. The premise is all there ever was. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I love that poem so much. It's like, I think Mitch and I were like, oh my God, we feel seen. This is us. So thank you. And I think that's what's so wonderful about this whole anthology is so many of these poems are about the superheroes, but they're also about like all of us and the vehicles that we're using the superheroes and these situations for. Are, it's not just pop culture poetry. It's poetry in general. It's beautiful. So next up we have Drew Hawkins.
Yeah, and I was just like, I was starting to show you. I was like, yo, keep it a stack. Like, you already got a train went through by like Deshaun and my dad. I mean, how long has it been? How long has it been? And she was like, it was 3 days ago. What? And I was like, you're a fucking trace. You're a straight up trace. And then she went over and fucked with. Alright, bro. Like, you got it, bro. You got the burning.
Okay. So I removed that person. I don't know who that was anyway. So Sorry about that. We have Drew, who I think we did get Zoom bomb. So Drew is a writer from South Louisiana. He's a producer and host of Micro, a podcast featuring short fiction, CNF, and poetry read by the author. His favorite comic book is Alan Moore and Eddie Campbell's From Hell, and the movie was okay. Not bad. It had its moments. So, Drew, whenever you're ready.
Thanks, man. I mean, it's a hell of a follow-up, but not quite as exciting. This one's called Losing My Father in Chronological Order. There are lists online to guide you through the universe. The first, Captain America, soft familiarity, a combination of the Second World We've been discovered. Our secret lair. Well,
sorry about that.
No worries. Let's see. The first, Captain America, soft familiarity, a combination of the Second World War, his favorite World War, and something more. He wants more coffee, even though his mug is full, and I tell him his mug is full. So he talks of other mugs, says, "Did I ever tell you?" And that reminds me. Beige with dark brown speckles, white flecked blue metal, insulated paper, cardboard sleeve, filled in banks, gas stations, AA meetings, waiting rooms, bleach white styrofoam for church and funerals. In this room, steam rises, catching the light that slips through the blinds. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So next we have James. And
right.
James Miller identifies with Dr. Strange's lonely struggle and envies his extravagant journeys through dream. He won the Connecticut Poetry Award in 2020 and is published in the Best Small Fictions 2021 anthology from Sonder Press. Recent pieces have appeared or are forthcoming in North Dakota Quarterly, Scoundrel Time, Phoebe, Yamasi, Elsewhere, West Trade Review, Sledgehammer Lit, and Daily Drunk Mag.
All right. Okay, so it's called A Letter to Doctor Strange. Our hands shake, mine from birth. I leave teacups and microwave plates to others. On the playground, I stood for your name, defended the velvet folds, the community theater hair. The cape comes honestly, I said, mark of mage work. Yet I preferred your visits to dream, mattered not what nightmare knew. When my father was newly dead, I spent free weekends with mother's friends, circled the apartment complex, passed potted herbs on 4 square porches. One Saturday, a plasticine retiree sprang from her corner dormer, slipped me Bible stories for little eyes, withdrew wordless. I flipped through the thick pages over Oreos, sucked Capri Sun, and paused over desert wanderers worshiping the brass serpent. Marvelous hungers. If light would not come, here were tongues to pull it down. I lay your best issue beside their need, compared pilgrim eyes, necklines, wrists, sandal sores. I saw you there among us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
So next we have Todd Dillard, who is one of the few, with the exception of Pam's Duplex, that wrote a form poem for this anthology. And I'm just going to introduce Todd and let him read it because it's fantastic. Todd Dillard is a writer living in Philadelphia, and he adored the first season of Legion. His book, Ways We Vanish, is available from OK Donkey Press, and Luke Cage has been known to read it when he wants to feel something. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you. This poem is called Bullseye Hustle. I love the Bullseye character, so and all the Daredevil universe, so I felt drawn to this. So here we go. What is a bullet but a shifting of context? A missed shot still makes a victim, holy body of morning mist. A mark ceases to be a mark when projectile meets flesh. Once I killed a man with a baseball, misplaced my pitch altitudes above the catcher's glove to have it land behind the batter's mustache. To miss sometimes is also to not miss. Some might call this origin, but I think the idea of origin is a myth. Some of us were born fletched, drawn on taut breath. We know the devil only dies when he ceases to be missed. Thank you.
So cool. Thank you, Todd. So next we have Marissa Glover, who, Todd's book is Inspiring Luke Cage, and Marissa wrote about Luke Cage. So it's a nice little transition there. Marissa Glover teaches and writes in Florida, where she serves as a co-editor of Orange Blossom Review and a senior editor at Lascaux Review. Marissa's first full-length poetry collection, Let Go of the Hands You Hold, was released in 2021 from Mercer University Press. Congratulations. Her second collection, Box Office Gospel, features pop culture poems, including her Luke Cage homage found in this anthology, and will be published by Mercer University Press in 2023. You signed the contract today, I think, right?
I did. It was a good day. Yes.
Yeah, awesome. This is a great way to cap it off.
Yeah.
And your favorite Marvel characters are Hugh Jackman's Wolverine and Benedict Cumberbatch's Doctor Strange. And I'm going to post Marissa's Twitter and Instagram on the chat for you all. Thank you, Marissa.
Thank you. And thank you for the congratulations that I'm seeing in the chat. I appreciate it. Thank you to everyone involved with this anthology. And of course, Jared, who did all the heavy lifting for this reading. I'm very grateful. I'm fangirling over so many of you. I have oohed and awed over your work that I have seen via Twitter and your publications. And I'm going to tell myself that I'm happy to follow Todd Dillard. Okay. So yes. And this poem is kind of long, probably longer than any that I've heard so far, because I wanted to, it's probably the longest poem I've ever written, but I divided it into 4 sections, and the first section sort of traces the concept of asylum and sanctuary historically, and I really wanted to keep like the historical facts about asylum and sanctuary in there, and then the second and third section really drill down, focus on Luke Cage and that narrative arc as he, in my opinion, tries to find sanctuary in 3 different areas and ultimately sadly fails. And then lastly, it zooms back out to sort of transfer that universal theme to a modern landscape, which in this case is the pandemic, the times that we are in. So the title of this poem is Searching for Sanctuary. In the Old Testament, God told Moses to set aside cities, places where persecuted people could find safety, a refuge in Canaan after the terror of Egypt. This right of asylum in countries or cities or churches has always been for the outcast, accidental criminals, runaway slaves, the righteous, brown bodies looking for better life, somewhere gangs and government aren't trying to kill them. Even in America today, folks still sit on the frith stool, waiting for shelter and sanctuary. Most of us are too busy watching Netflix to notice. Some scholars see Luke Cage as a Christ figure, rising from the water tank torture and Seagate prison, breaking the chains of sin and death, beating hell in the grave, ascending to the heights of Harlem, omnipotent. But Luke Cage isn't God. He's anointed at baptism, raised to new life, imbued with power. But he's a man on a mission, a superhero, trying to seek and save that which is lost. He first reaches Harlem's paradise, an anti-sanctuary doubling as the villain's lair, where he is soon cast out, banished from this fallen Eden. Luke tries church next. His father's the pastor. Surely the saints will warmly welcome him since the sinners didn't. Sweet Christmas, Luke learns there's a hypocrite in the pulpit. For a moment, Luke finds peace at Pop's barbershop, this sacred space where Black men gather for cuts and contact, where they can be safe, free to shoot the shit, talk smack, question Pop's decision to put Pat Riley on the list for free haircuts. Here the grown teach the young. The wise show the fools what is hard work, what does it take to be a man. Luke Cage almost found sanctuary at the barbershop. Then evil broke in and shot up the place, and so it will be in the last days when pestilence again haunts the earth. Truth and doctors will die. The government will shut everything down, everything but anger, conspiracies, and death. When the old and the ill are persecuted in great number, when allies are attacked, when color is again more likely to suffer, when Southern stylists defy the law and keep cutting clients' hair, don't believe the posters people hold to the sky. No matter how dark or deep the red and blue words on their lily white signs, none of these barbershops and the news will be manned by heroes. Thank you.
It was really powerful. Thank you so much. One of the things I really like about this anthology is that the way in which people took it in various directions. And, you know, you'll see if you buy it, in my forward, I talk about, you know, running to go buy comic books as a kid. And the next poem by Mitchell Nobis is kind of made me recognize that end of comic books so many of us read these as children. They are often associated with children, even though it's sort of grown from that, been realized in our adulthood. And this poem does a really good job of kind of looking back on that era. So let me introduce you, Mitch, and then I'll let you read it. So Mitchell Nobis is a writer and a K-12 teacher in Metro Detroit. That his poetry has appeared anywhere is a result of him learning to read by stealing his big brother's Hulk comics back when the leader had a big old punching bag shaped head. He firmly believes Jack Kirby was a god and Chris Claremont deserves a Nobel for literature. Find him at Mitch Nobis and mitchnobis.com, or wandering around the vault of midnight comics and stuff in Detroit, where he's probably daydreaming about being able to bamf everywhere instead of commuting Excelsior Bub. Thank you, Mitch.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I would start off by echoing Marissa. This is kind of a treat being in this room and seeing so many of my favorite writers, like your tiny little face is all in one spot. It's really cool. So thanks for organizing all this, Jared, the book and the reading and everything. This is fantastic. And yeah, I'm an old comics reader. And for the fellow parents in the room, it's getting harder. You talked about comics growing up. It's harder to find comics you can read with your little ones, but they are out there. Persevere, because it's a lot of fun coming back to this stuff. Although the way comics work, I have no idea who many of the characters are, or like there's 19 versions of them now. You figure it out. Google. This is called Night Crawling. But the other guys were going out, kissing girls in the back row at the movies. I was home, my brother off and parents downstairs, miles from town, drawing away those Friday nights. Muscles out of proportion on heroes bound to shape my worldview before I had any idea what a worldview was. A white boy with little definition yet of melanin, hiding upstairs with comics and tapes in a farmhouse that I realize now was an escape before entering. I had teleported away without engaging. Shy and shying away, I whisked my pointed tail, leapt and tumbled to my perch. My failings quiet in notebooks, pencil shading deep in the hollows.
Thank you, Mitch. So in the same vein, the next few poets are going to work within some sort of discovery or understanding of themselves through comics. And next we have one of my favorite writers, Nicole Tallman. Let me pull up your bio, Nicole. Nicole Tallman is the poetry ambassador for Miami-Dade County, associate editor for South Florida Poetry Journal, and interviews editor for the Blue Mountain Review. Her favorite comic book movie is Batman and Robin, largely due to Uma Thurman's portrayal of Poison Ivy. Her debut chapbook, Something Kindred, is forthcoming from the Southern Collective Experience, SCE Press. And find her on Twitter and Instagram at N.A. Tallman and at NicoleTallman.com. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you, Jared. And so good to be with all of you here. And I just have to give a shout out to Michigan. Even though I live in Miami, I'm from Michigan. So I'm partial to all of my Michiganders, Michiganians, however we say it now that's politically correct. Jared, thank you so much for putting together this anthology. It's such an honor to be included, and you've put together such a great, just great group of poets here. I'm going to read for you my love poem for Firestar, aka Firestar, aka Angelica Angel Jones. Name a heroine hotter than Firestar. I don't think you can. I've been crushing on her since she debuted in 1981. Yes, I was only 5, but I knew fire then. I was glued to the TV. I had a thing for redheads. And she is magma. She is lava. No, she's the whole damn volcano. With a single glance, she set me on fire. That red hair against yellow costume fire. She's a red comet soaring high above the moon. She's radioactive. She's microwave radiation manipulation. She's full on flight. She's energy wavelength disruption. She's the zap that kills the microwave in the night. She's a trained assassin. She's loyal. She's single. She's probably still in love with Iceman. Thank you.
The disappointment at the end.
Yeah, it's really sad.
Thank you so much. So the next writer, and when I saw these two poems, this next poem, I was like, that needs to go right next to Nicole's poem. I knew exactly where to put them. This poem is by Adrian Dallas Frandl, who is a queer poet and cook who lives in Connecticut with a trusty sidekick husband and 2 villainous chihuahuas. Weaned on the spandex 90s X-Men comics and cartoon show Dark Phoenix, was a major childhood figure, along with, of course, Rogue. This guy has poems in Feed Lit Mag and forthcoming elsewhere. You can follow him on Twitter at Adrian F. Thank you, Adrian.
Thanks so much, Jared. So excited to be here with y'all reading. For a little queer kid, especially the powerful female superheroes were super important to me. So epigraph, you can drain my energy anytime, Cher. Hormones and sexuality gone rogue. All I knew was that I wanted to be her at 13. Bright red mane with silver skunk streak, and to step into her skin-tight green jumpsuit. Back then, the costume made the person I could be. Powerfully projecting forward, I craved the strength to uproot trees as bouquets, a true romantic, and yearned for lightness of flight. My mutant power, too, was to take too much, mistake touch for communion. Like Midas seeding skin to luster, I had become her, like reaching out for gold and taking lead in. Could not understand why my mother, brothers, friends withered when I flew out to greet them, why each collapsed with a stroke of their cheek. That I had taken something by becoming me. So I got gloves. They remained on straight to adulthood to remind sidekick pain the hazards of touch. Battle after battle, how the men of X tried telepathy and cosmic force to retch off the thieves, to divorce these hands from their keeping. Then, on some strange mission, I encountered him, swamp, sweet, and accented, the whole gambit. His powers were exquisite. Hold what you touch, charge it up, volt it to full potential, then throw it to the wind. My power made life wilt and shrink. His, a brilliant comic explosion. He played all his cards on me. Now the gloves are off, and when we touch, we shine each other heroically. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next one to round out our sort of awakening teenager understanding poems is Francis, we have a video, who wrote, I've been asking, and as many of you probably saw on Twitter, I was asking for somebody write me a Silver Surfer poem, who was one of my favorites. And then Francis wrote one. I'm like, this is it. This is the one. And so I'll share that with you all. Let me share my screen.
It's Frances Boyle here from Ottawa, Canada. Sorry I can't be there in person to hear all the marvelous other poets, but I'm grateful to have the opportunity to read, and very grateful to Jared and the Daily Drunk for including my poem in the anthology. The poem is called Sheila and I Were DC Girls, but Superman never flew me like the Silver Surfer did. And as you can see, when you get the anthology, there are some lines that are set off from the larger stanzas, and you'll be able to tell what these are. Before it was an entire universe, Marvel to us was mostly just our little brothers' after-school cartoons. I still can sing that Hulk song and, listen, bud, Spider-Man's and the rhymes around a mighty shield, but no art to those animations. A gleam peripheral on curve of earth. My friend and I read our superhero tales in the playhouse Sheila's dad built, flipped pages with our younger siblings annoyingly present, smell off the pressboard walls as summer heat baked the interior, passing stacks back and forth between us. Illusions pierced with argent light. We scorned Archies and insipid true romance for secret identities and team-ups. Lois and Lana's rivalry and scheming that wouldn't pass the Bechdel test, focus always on a steely man. Better yet was a wondrous game of bullets and bracelets. Open galaxies, spinning stars. We might dip into the other brand, but to Sheila and me, J. Jonah Jameson was just a crustier Perry White, the Hulk more sulky than incredible, the Fantastic Four's squabbles and exploits less fascinating to us than Bizarro and trickster Mixyazpidlik. Amid plush reaches of space. The boys I hung with in college were Marvel men. In smoke-hazed apartments, I yawned over Thor on Earth, learned Spidey lore, barely caring. Then in soared the Sky Rider, herald to become hero. Lustrous with angst, he bowled over what I thought comics were. The surfer cleared the clutter. Glassy like mercury blobs, we'd roll on our palms. Pearlescent head, his arcing body, board cutting the void. Luminosity against the dark. Thanks again.
So good. So the next reader is one of the reasons that we're here. Victoria Buitron read her poem for the Daily Drunks. She was published about a week, I think, before the open mic. I saw her read it, and I was like, this is an amazing poem. And I think I had pitched and the idea to Sean maybe like a week before when I saw the poem in the publications, and I said, can we do this? And then I saw her. I told her, I was like, I think I'm going to do this thing. And behind the scenes, Victoria's just been like cheering this whole thing on, and pushed me to pester Sean even more around October 1st when it was released. I'm like, Sean, can we do this? And the reason I did that was because Victoria's like, you should make this happen, make it happen, make it happen, make it happen. So thank you, Victoria, for giving me the chutzpah to do it, and thank you for this poem. Let me properly introduce you. Victoria Buitron is a writer and translator from Ecuador who resides in Connecticut. Her debut memoir and essays, A Body Across Two Hemispheres, is the 2021 Fairfield Book Prize winner and will be available in spring 2022 by Woodhall Press. Her favorite Marvel show is WandaVision because it encapsulates the force of grief and its ability to construct and destroy. And Victoria, correct me if I'm wrong, this is your first ever poem, right?
Yes, it is. I was just going to say thank you so much. It's truly an honor to be here with everyone. I want to thank Sean for publishing my first poem ever. I've written a lot of poems in the past that have never seen daylight, and I'm happy about that. But I'm so happy that Sean picked this to be in the Daily Drunk Mag, and even happier that this is going to be in this marvelous anthology. And thank you so much, Jared. I mean, I remember, I think it was early August when I saw you in the city in Brooklyn, and you mentioned this to me, and then, like you said, I kind of pestered you, and I was like, did you talk to Sean? Is this happening? This has to happen. So thank you so much. And the poem, the title is Natasha Romanoff died because she had no kids or spouse. Okay. Natasha Romanoff died because she had no kids or spouse. And somehow the fact that two men wrote the Endgame screenplay confirms it. Because of course they'd give a man with arrows the redemption arc, the ability to touch his family again. In a helicopter, Natasha and her sister joke about their forced hysterectomies, and that's how I know I'm watching a movie. Not from the explosions or poor Russian accents or metaphors for the Cold War, but women laughing hundreds of feet in the air about the choice of becoming mothers taken from them. Natasha says she has two families, neither tied to her by blood, but by want. When the Black widows and her pseudo family leave her, the sea of women with barren uteruses rise, plucked by men who wanted them to serve as weapons, puppets, always dressed in black, grieving their wombs. If widow is used for a woman who lost a spouse, what's the noun to describe losing a body part that's invisible to others? When I leave the theater, the difference between childless and child-free wades into my thoughts. But then I remember, even women with no children are taught to sacrifice their lives for everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So the next reader is Ashley Elizabeth. Ashley, I'm just trying to find the thing. Sorry. Ashley is a writing consultant, teacher, and writer. Okoye is the fictional love of her life. Ashley's writing has appeared in SWWIM, Santa Fe Writers Project, and Kissing Dynamite, among others. Ashley's first chapbook collection, You Were Supposed to Be a Friend, is available from Nightingale and Sparrow when Ashley isn't teaching, editing, or working as a co-founder of the Estuary Collective, providing low to no cost programming and a safe space for BIPOC writers. She habitually posts on Twitter and Instagram at @e_the_poet. She lives in Baltimore, Maryland with her partner and their cats. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you. And I forgot to mention that my cat's name, well, that one of my cat's names is Gambit. So perfect. He's sleeping right now, but I would show him to you. So my poem, and it's like so nice to be here. Thank you, Jared, for having us. And it's really nice to be in a space full of writers, some of whom I published through Sundress, and some I just follow on Twitter and hope to be friends with. So yeah, my poem is called On Wakandan Women. When Okoye tells her love to drop his sword, she says she'd kill him without question for country, then doubles down as if he doesn't believe her. When Shuri makes marvels, she stands up for her brother, picks up weapons fighting for her king. Not because he is king, but because he is a better man. Nakia spearheads a revolution. steals flour for the strength of the Black Panther, fights for who she considers right. Queen humbles herself to her knees, never too proud to ask for help. Black women transform, and the women of Wakanda are no different. Just as Black and womanly, they have more than enough power. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So the next reader is Preston Smith. Preston Smith couldn't join us, but made a video, so I'm going to share that with you. This kind of kicks off our transition to Victoria's favorite television series, which is a couple of WandaVision poems. So Preston's going to start us off with Wanda Maximoff during the witching hour. So let me share that with you all.
Hi, my name is Preston Smith, and I'm here to read my poem, Wanda Maximoff During the Witching Hour, which is after WandaVision. In the end, there was only red. Count the numbers on a clock, sip from a teacup, empty. Her scrying pool desolate, dried blood, wine. The tango of magic wisps like fire on her palms. Hibiscus memories of children lost to a crimson tide. A suffocation from within, the only being strong enough to withstand living in a hypothetical world, a reality snuffed from the mind. In the end, there was only too much pain. At midnight, an unwilling tear, and at 2 a.m. the hunt begins. A vision born from night, the chaos love can cup like water. Come to terms, it may leak through. Like time from a broken clock, but it's holy nonetheless. It's scarlet nonetheless. Thank you.
And to follow it up, we have Madeline Corley, who loves Paul Rudd and Scott Lang. Currently, she serves at Sparran Magazine's managing editor. Find her on Twitter at Madelinsky or at her website, wrotemadeline.com. Thank you, Madeline.
Thanks, Jared. I'm so excited to be here. I do want to give a shout out to Paul Rudd, who is the sexiest man of the year. That happened before I could update my bio, so I think that's really important to state because I love him so much. But this is a poem. When I watched WandaVision, I loved that, and so I tried writing a poem as Vision. So it's called Love Poem as Vision Before the Wandaverse Collapses. It was here we are happy, even as floorboards flee, as glass and nails confetti the foundation. You put me together, made me of your memory, grief and outline of our house. They will come again, the doors I open to find you. A knock. I'll know the answer. In every world, I am to love you. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Love that poem. So about halfway through the anthology, I'm like, no one is sending any villains. No one was writing any villains. And then I got Terry Lynn Davis's poem, which just blew my mind. It is clearly in the voice of a villain. And so I was like, this is the poem to start off my villain section. So let me introduce Terry Lynn Davis and let her read it for you. And as she reads it, try to envision Ebony Maw, the guy who's always like the children of Thanos in the Infinity Wars, saying this poem. So Terry Lynn Davis has an MFA in poetry from Southern Connecticut State University, where she also teaches first-year writing. She's a recipient of the Jack and Annie Smith Poets and Painters Award in 2018. Her poems have most recently appeared in Janus Literary, Emerge Literary Journal, Neologism Poetry Journal, Bellatrist, and Ghost City Review. Terry's always had a soft spot for the villains and the anti-heroes. Accordingly, she is a devoted disciple of Magneto. She lives in Connecticut with her co-habbie and their 3 children. You can find her on Twitter at Terry Lynn Davis, or on our website, www.terrylyndavis.com. And I also want to say thank you so much for coming. You just had a baby, and the baby is nicknamed X-Man, which is the coolest nickname for a baby ever. Thank you so much, Terry Lynn.
All right, thank you. His name is Xavier, but I call him X-Man or Baby Xavier. And thank you for having me. All right, so this one's called Daily Devotational, the Marvel Supervillain. And the epigraph is, the hardest choices require the strongest wills. Thanos, the Mad Titan. Give thanks, brothers, to sweet singular purpose. Forget, never. Never. Forgiveness is the hopeless infant suffering, still swaddled tight. Smother him and rejoice. Blood is the only ledge from what was. Glory, glory. I pray we are filthy with it. That's it. Thank you.
I love this poem so much. Thank you so much. To follow that up, Ray Ball could not be with us. She is teaching in Alaska right now, so the time change just did not allow for it. But she did, in the last moment, send her Baron Zemo obituary poem, which I'll share with you now.
Hi, everyone. I'm sorry I can't be with you for this awesome reading this evening. I am teaching right now. So here is a recording of my poem called Baron Zemo Writes His Wife's Obituary. My wife, who the movies won't bother to name, died in the arms of my nameless father on May 6th, 2015. She was loved by our son, Carl, who also died as mad robots assembled and disassembled like geese in formation. She is survived by her loving husband, Helmut, who will go to the ends of the earth to unearth the secrets of Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D., who will order bacon with a side of grief every morning, who will see to it that everything that tethered the Avengers becomes as easy to remove as the center leaf from our table, where my wife served the most delicious paprikash to our guests. A gaping hole will be left behind. Their enmity will harden as vibranium, releasing all the energies of my hate. Thank you.
What's so amazing to me is, I've read and reread and reread and edited all these poems, but to hear them aloud, they come alive in a way that just doesn't quite happen when you read the poem. So I'm really, really excited to hear all of you. Thank you so much again for being here. Our next poet is Emily Benson, who wrote a Loki poem. Emily lives in Western New York with her husband and two sons. Her favorite comic book movie is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which she has watched with her younger son approximately 7,356 times. Ms. Benson's previous publications include Blue River Review, 5 Minute Lit, Hecate Magazine, Hey, I'm Alive Magazine, High Shelf Press, Moist Poetry Journal, Paddler Press, The Dilly Doon Review, and Unstematic. Her work can be found at www.emilybensonpoet.com. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you, Jared. I'm so excited to be part of this group, and this is my first ever reading, so thank you for letting me be part of this. My poem is called Loki to Mjolnir. It is said only the worthy can lift you, wield you. It's understood that means a certain lack of moral ambiguity. Impulses of pettiness, bitterness, of ambition, which has its costs, tamped down or unbelievably absent. Is not the striving to live with, in spite of these feelings, a better goal? To balance the desire to sin against the repercussions? Is that not at least as noble, if not more so? I stare into your solid, gleaming face, and I see my shortcomings, my failures reflected. I see the lie at the heart of my question, and I am answered.
Thank you so much. So Brian Harvey, whose poem we're about to hear, wrote a poem about Magneto, and I wasn't sure because I too love Magneto. I was like, is this a villain poem? Is this a X-Men poem? And one of the things that I recognized, this section that we're now about to enter, so many of the poems, like when I first thought of the anthology, I thought I'm going to get so many Marvel Cinematic Universe. And what really struck me as interesting, both in the anthology and poems that didn't make it, the vast majority were X-Men poems. And Brian's sort of serves as the hinge between the villains and the X-Men, and it has the perfect title for that, which I'll let him read for you. Brian Harvey tweets at Brian_S_Harvey and keeps a shoebox in his house with Bishop's first appearance inside it. He could have written a poem about that. He could have written a poem about Iceman or Beast. He understands Wolverine better with each passing year, but that scene in the second X-Men movie where Ian McKellen broke out of that plastic prison is just difficult to escape. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Jared, and everyone who's read so far. This has been awesome. I really appreciate the poems, and I can't remember the last time I did a reading. It's not my first, but it's been a long time. So yeah, I was going to write about. I saw Jared's call on Twitter and wanted to write about different characters and stuff like that, and then he kind of saved me having to make a choice when I saw that he said something about, like, I need these characters, like there's no Magneto, no Professor X, and so my choices narrowed down, and I was appreciative of that as well. The title here is basically one of the first lines Magneto says when he first appears in the first X-Men. The day of the mutants is upon us. I'm here to remind you, ideas lack substance. They do not thin or thicken like blood, like bullets, like locks or keys. I'm here to wipe down the bone, to remove doubt and loyalty and love and hate from the world. I'm here to remind you, the world is the world. When gates and walls are removed of rust and purpose, when cages collapse into the earth again, I am sorry, Charles. I cannot hear you. Only a pulsing between the poles. There is no need to forgive me. I know what I am doing.
Thank you so much. And it would not be right to not follow this up with a Charles Xavier poem, both in the anthology and in this reading. And so our next poem is a Charles Xavier poem by Regan Petrua. And Regan writes, edits, and consults creatively and professionally. She's a fan of the original She-Ra, Princess of Power. And no, she doesn't care how much that dates her. Her chapbook, An Animal I Can't Name, won the 2015 Two Cups Press Competition. Her debut poetry collection, Head of a Gorgon, is forthcoming with Vegetarian Alcoholic Press in 2022. And she has a memoir in progress. She's received her MFA from Bowling Green State University, where she was an assistant editor for the Mid-American Review. Her work has been published in Cimarron Review, Puerta del Sol, and other journals. Connect with her at reganmp.wordpress.com and on Twitter at FreeRadicalRP. Thank you, Regan.
Thank you, Jared. This has been amazing. Just such a fun project. And thank you to Daily Drunk as well for, I guess, sponsoring it and publishing it. Like everybody who's read so far, and I'm sure everybody who will follow as well. It's just amazing. It's been totally mind-blowing. So thank all of you for the work that you've done as well, and so many exciting firsts and everything. And thanks to everybody who's hung in there so far and keep hanging on till the end. So this is Professor X Confesses. From this chair, I can see the world. His world unwrapping its newfound flexes, her world spinning on its first lipstick axis, even your world flashing on their screen, trapped somewhere in between. Like time, I can unlock certain doors, thrust past thresholds, direct another's next steps as if I'd had a script all along, as if the event were simply rigged. And I'm ever able to convince it's in celebration of some greater good, the ease of a grandparent's familiarity settling into my aging body. Still, I'd let you drag a finger through cake frosting before the candle's lit, and that must count for something. Because we'll always have a common threat, you and me. Many still fear what they think is separate from them. But aren't we all, before any communions, misunderstood? So understand it as a sort of gift, sitting with this ability still to enter, to remove hesitance and reservation without the lift of a finger, to see the you beyond even you, to be precisely what anybody would need. But I will admit one thing that surprised even me. Somewhere in the shrinking breaths of time between the fulfillment of so many wishes, I lost track of the moment it became easier to justify the contents of your mind than mine. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next two poems, I don't think you can have X-Men without Jean Grey and Phoenix, and so the next two poems kind of cover both of those things, Jean Grey and Phoenix. And the first one is by Sarah Salcedo, who is an author, illustrator, and filmmaker based in the Pacific Northwest. Her prose has been published in The Future, Fire, Pacifica Literary Review, Collective Realms, and Hypertext Magazine. Her art has been published in Cascadia Magazine, Hypertext Magazine, and The Future Fire. Her first feature film documentary, Promised Land, won multiple awards. She's currently, as in this very moment, maybe a little later, rewatching Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., hoping it finds its way back into the MCU canon. Who is cooler than Melinda May and Daisy Johnson? She'll die on that hill. That Marvel's best written and acted love story is Fitz and Simmons, and she'll love Agent Phil Coulson forever. And really, other than maybe Loki, who doesn't love Coulson? When she's not watching or reading comic book things or doing her paid work, you can find her on Twitter at Sarah Salcedo and sarah-salcedo.com. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Jared. And you asked for a Marvel piece of interest for the bio. I was swinging for the fences with that one and watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at the time. I want to thank everybody. You are all such amazing poets. This is not my first reading, but this is my first poetry reading, and being able to read with so many amazing people is wonderful. And it's also just great in the literary world. You kind of get side-eye when you say that you're into comic books. So to read with so many kindred spirits who are reading about characters that I have just loved for so many years, it's wonderful. This is Dear Scott. I am leaving this form, leaving this team, leaving you hiding her texts, her perfume on your neck like frost on the glass in the morning, like the ice in her veins, both of you insisting the same. It is too much to be married to someone like me. Omega and rising even after I tore wings of flame from my back so I could come back to you. You're both pretending like fire's the issue when it was just you, shielding your eyes from me, a wild and unyielding sun, too strong to be a good wife. Only one of us is apparently allowed to lose control. You like your telepaths like you like yourself, flattering, charming, calculating. In another world, we are happy, but in another world, you are not, freezing up, and she is not there to validate your fear that you will never be stronger than me. Scott Summers sucks. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. The next poem is about Phoenix in the Backwoods by V.C. McCabe, who is not able to read but made a recording. And I also want to give a shout out to Lori Marshall. You have to get this book. And the reason you have to get this book is not only for the poetry, but there is amazing, amazing art in it. I won the cover. My friend Derek is just out of this world awesome. You've probably seen it all over, including for this. But inside the book, we also have Laurie Marshall's art. And what she does with collage is just out of this world. And after I saw VC's poem about the Phoenix, I said, can you make a Phoenix collage? And she read, I sent her the poem, and she read the poem and delivered. And so I'm going to show you the art for this while VC reads her poem. So let me share that with you.
The Phoenix Rises, More Fog Than Fire by V.C. McCabe. Leaving Earth, I know, in between screams, land was too hard for me to move forward. An antiquated calm, rusting stagnation. After, ether, I descend like a mist. Thump tin roofs, crawl down spouts, tangle in orb weaver webs and garden hoses, winding them with water snakes into a noose, so I won't have to survive another winter in these haunted woods. Eerie whispers shake the sycamore trees, and the graves have all cracked open. The cove is calling for a new sacrifice, but I have nothing left to give. Every moon whispers, don't go.
It's a haunting reading and fire imagery. Just beautiful work, Laurie. Thank you so much for your contribution to the book, and VC for that amazing reading and poem. We have two more poets for us. Jenny Wong did a Kitty Pryde poem. Jenny Wong is a writer, traveler, an occasional business analyst. She loves reading about comic book duos like Kitty Pryde and her alien dragon, Lockheed, or Booster Gold, and his robot valet unit, Skeets. She resides in the foothills of Alberta, Canada, and tweets @JenWithWords. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you, Jared. And thank you for assembling us together and hosting us tonight. This has been so fun. So my poem is When Kitty Pryde Phases Through a Wall. Fiberglass slips by the tongue, drywall dust, a speck through the eye. Don't look at the bug carapaces and rodent bones. Focus on getting through and leave no trace behind. I guess it's a state of thought, this thinning, to let everything around me keep their expectations and existences intact and rearrange myself to accommodate bullets and walls and glass ceilings. The point is to not interfere with the trajectories of others. Learn how to let go and know myself well enough to pull the fractured tethers of my body together again without stealing a little darkness for myself. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So our last reader, and I want to have a huge thank you to everybody, but especially to Matthew Henry for waiting to the very end. I wanted to save one of the best for last. It is one of the last in the book. Matthew, I had already accepted Mitch's Nightcrawler, and I was trying not to duplicate too much because I was like, at the beginning, I was like, I'm going to have 50 Loki and 50 Captain America poems if I accept everything that comes my way. So I was being very careful about that. And then Matthew sent me this poem, and I can't not take this poem. This poem is amazing. So let me introduce Matthew, and then he'll read this amazing, amazing poem. Matthew Henry, MEH, is the Boston-born author of Teaching While Black, Main Street Rag, 2020, and Dust and Ashes, Californios Press, 2020. He's the editor-in-chief of the Weight Journal MEH's poetry has received Pushcart and Best of the Net nominations, but for some reason he continues to dabble in prose. He's an educator who received his MFA in poetry, yet continued to spend money he didn't have, completing an MA in theology and a PhD in education. His work can be found on www.mehpoeting.com, where he writes about education, race, religion, and burning oppressive systems to the ground. He's still bitter about how Marvel screwed over Thunderbird. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you all for this amazing reading. Going last is really difficult because everyone else is just so much better. My poem is entitled, Mr. Wagner, He Dreams of Young Kurt. It's a Nightcrawler poem. How easy it is to disappear when no one wants you to be seen. This demon feeling they foist upon skin, they fear in private, applaud in public. A performative acceptance of your magic, your agile darkness. You pretend it doesn't choke, isn't wrapped about your neck like a prehensile tail, but you can't hide it. Only bamf into another dimension, leaving a bouquet of brimstone, validating all they think about you, your kind. But your faith in them persists, is clutched to your chest like a well-worn rosary. You say they need only to see you soar above their heads, perfectly, angelic, without a net, for them to believe your blood bleeds the same without it ever being on their eager hands. Thank you.
Somewhere in a swamp in Louisiana, you'll probably find either Swamp Thing or Jack Bedell, or maybe Man Thing, which is you'll find in this poem, which is part of the anthology and our reading tonight. So I am going to let Jack read it for you. It is a wonderful piece, and I'm so glad that you're going to get to see it.
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry I couldn't be on live with you all tonight, but thanks to Jarrett for letting me send this in, record it. I'm really anxious to hear what everyone else reads. This is going to be a great book. So here's my poem. It's called Man Thing Knows He's Not Alone. There's nearly 4 million square miles of wetlands on this planet, and he feels the wind pass through reeds in every inch of them. Each time a wave of salt water takes away a chunk of coast, or an oil spill globs inland from the Gulf, the hurt seeps into his roots like mercury. But all he can do is hold his own patch of swamp together, guarded against whatever new threat rises out of the nexus of his reality. Those other swamps have their own swamp things to fight for him. He feels their heavy feet sinking into the mud just like his own. And while he has no word for friend or brother, there's no doubting the tug on the line that connects his heart to theirs. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone. This was amazing. This is my first time hosting, which I know all of you could tell, but it has been really, really amazing to have all of you contribute to this, make this a reality. When I first started out, I had no idea what to expect, and you guys just blew it out of the water. And this reading just confirms that it's this is something really special, and I can't wait for it to get out in the world so that everybody can get their hands on it and share it and read it some more. So thank you all so much. Sean, do you want to say anything before we wrap up?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks everyone for coming together. This anthology is really incredible. It means a lot to Jared and I, and it was just great to get everybody in the room. It's just these poems have weight, they have feeling and meaning to them. It's just a really great night. And should we do a anthology release reveal, Jared?
Absolutely, please.
Yeah. So the plan is to drop it next Monday, and we're very excited to get this out in the world and for everyone to read it. It's going to be great. Thanks everyone for coming out as well.
So Sean, when you say drop it, it'll be available to purchase on Amazon?
It's going to be available to purchase on Amazon, and we're just starting out as a mag right now, but everybody will get their own PDF copy. That's what we can do right now. The more we grow, And we're hoping in the future everyone can get a physical copy. That's our goal. We're on Patreon for that reason. We want to start getting to that point where we can support our contributors and writers and give back even more.
Thank you so much, Sean, and thank you to everybody. It was a great night, and I hope you pick up a copy and share it with everybody. Christmas and Hanukkah is right around the corner, so have a great rest of your evening, and I hope these poems continue to reverberate in your mind as they have for me for the last month. Thank you so much. This has been great.
Thank you, Jared.
Thank you.